Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. For a few years, Stellantis and Mopar felt down in the dumps, and that extended to Mopar outlets and platforms like my channel, where I was talking about fun speculations and rumors that often turned into exciting releases, like the Ram 1500 TRX, Hellcat Redeyes, Durango Hellcat, and the Challenger SRT Demon. Unfortunately, Stellantis turned the corner, and I went from talking about those exciting topics to talks of the Hemi getting discontinued, the Charger Daytona EV, Dodge Hornet, the Chrysler brand not releasing new vehicles, and on, a lot less fun for us Mopar enthusiasts. It wasn't just my opinion, as the sales fell substantially for the Jeep, Dodge, and Ram brands recently. Well, 2025 feels different, especially after the resignation of Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares, and now I've been continuing to report that Stellantis is changing course, and things have the potential to look very positive again. Today I'm going to dive into the return of the legendary series of Hemi V8 engines, giving you an update of everything we know so far. As you can see with the video outline, I'll talk about why the Hemi was discontinued, why the Hemi is returning as Stellantis reverses their plans, when the Hemi is returning, which Hemi engines are being produced, and also which vehicles will use these Hemis. So let's get started. So you might be wondering why the Hemis were discontinued in the first place. That has to do with former Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares. I made an entire video on this topic, the link is in the top right corner if you want to check that one out. But once Tavares was gone, whistleblowers came out to CNBC saying, quote, "Everyone wanted to keep the Hemi. Engineers, marketers, and even executives in the US knew how important it was for our customers. But Tavares didn't want to hear it. He was fixated on cutting emissions and improving margins, saying that you need to be greener," end quote. So Tavares wanted to shift away from the Hemi, as it was part of the cost-cutting strategy under his Dare Forward 2030 plan, as he wanted to increase profit margins while transitioning every Stellantis brand towards EVs, even if it didn't make sense, to comply with increasing global emission standards. Of course, this is such a controversial and detrimental decision for the US market, which happens to be Stellantis' largest and most profitable. Insiders have said, quote, "If you're selling performance vehicles in America, you need a V8, end quote. So if the Hemi was recently discontinued, why is it suddenly coming back? Well, following the departure of Carlos Tavares, as well as shifting political influences, Stellantis seems to have reversed their plans. Retired Ram and former Dodge CEO Tim Kuniskis, who helped to make big splashes with vehicles like the Hellcat and Demon, came back out of retirement 9 days later after Tavares resigned, and he spoke about the EV transition like being heading towards a wall, and that taking away the Hemi was a problem, saying that they took a fundamental American thing and freedom of choice away. Politics also come into play, as President Donald Trump eliminated the electric vehicle mandate, which was an EPA rule that would have required automakers to slash greenhouse gas emissions from new vehicles starting in 2027. The EPA estimated that this would have pushed EV production to between 30% and 56% of new light-duty vehicles by 2032 in America. Of course, this mandate pushed a lot of automakers like Stellantis to make their own EVs, but now they are more free to backtrack and do what might be better for their own brands, like Dodge or Ram. Based on the previous administration's policies, a lot of manufacturers invested billions into EV technology, but now with the changing landscape and customer demand, they may need to quickly pivot back towards traditional combustion engines. Both of these factors contribute to Stellantis changing course. They are reevaluating pricing strategies, like cutting the cost of the very expensive Jeep vehicles. They are reconsidering or switching electrification plans, like delaying the production of the Chrysler C6X electric crossover, canceling the long-range all-electric Ram 1500 REV pickup, and Alfa Romeo announcing that they are delaying the transition to becoming an all-electric brand. It also seems that Stellantis really wants the Hemi V8 back in their lineups. Of course, when we saw the Hemis being discontinued for real, I thought this meant that they were simply done for, with no chance of return. But speaking of the Hemi returning, first off, it seems the production of these engines will begin sooner than most might have thought, as Stellantis is targeting to restart production in Q3 of this year, likely in August 2025. Previously, the 5.7-liter Hemi V8 was built at the Saltillo engine plant in Mexico, but the production stopped to make way for the new 3-liter twin-turbocharged Hurricane inline 6-cylinder motors. Of course, there's still a substantial amount of Hemis left for the Durango in 2024 and 2025 in the inventory, as well as some crate engines for sale, but we all thought that once those ran out, the days of the Hemi would officially be over. Now, recent sources have said that the Hemi production is starting again, not at the Saltillo plant, but instead at the Dundee engine plant in Michigan. This also marks the first time in over 15 years that Chrysler is building a V8 engine at home in America. So which Hemi engines are being produced? Initially it was thought that just a 5.7-liter would be produced. Now reports are suggesting that Stellantis is targeting that August production start, not just for the 5.7, but the entire Hemi family, including the 6.4-liter and the 6.2-liter supercharged Hellcat engines. Note that the 6.4-liter big gas engine, or BGE, that is found in the Ram Heavy Duty, is still being produced in Mexico at the Saltillo plant. Sources indicate these engines will still be based on the Gen 3 architecture, but there could be updates or enhancements on them, as they are definitely due for some of those. There also could be a new, larger displacement Hemi variant that could join the lineup in the future. Now, which vehicles will use the Hemi V8? First off, Dundee makes perfect sense as that plant is close to the Sterling Heights assembly plant, which builds the Ram 1500, as well as the Jefferson assembly plant, which builds the Dodge Durango. I've already talked about leaked internal Stellantis emails that suggested the 5.7-liter will return to the 1500s, and the 6.4-liter will be available for the first time in the 1500, and that the Hellcat Power TRX will be back for 2026. The proximity of Dundee to Sterling Heights just adds more fuel to the fire that the Hemi will indeed be back under the hood of the Ram half-tons. Reports say the Hemis will return to the 2026 Ram 1500 as a base engine, slotting below the Hurricane Inline 6 engines on lower trim levels only, as there's still such a high demand for the V8 engines, even though it's less powerful than those Hurricanes. There could also be a few Hemi special editions. This is all in line with lots of comments that were made by Ram CEO Tim Kuniskis, who would never rule out the Hemi returning, saying, quote, "Even if you said let's do it, we can't do it right away. I didn't say you can't do it, you just can't do it right away," end quote. He also said if there was a gap in the Ram truck offerings, that he would be scrambling to bring back the Hemi. The Durango will also benefit from the V8s. Dodge is still producing the 3rd-gen WD Durangos while we wait for a next-gen release, but 2025 was supposed to be the final year of the Durango Hemis. Now we learned that Dodge has decided to extend the availability of the 5.7-liter in the Durango RT longer than expected through 2026, again responding to strong customer demand. In 2027, we will then see a new Durango released, and there aren't any indication on whether or not Dodge will continue with V8 Durangos at that point. We really know nothing about that at all. Dodge has already discontinued the SRT 392 Durango and has said that 2025 is the final year for the Hellcats, but I believe we could see some final edition 392s and maybe more Hellcats as well if the Hemi production is restarting. To add another exciting news update, Dodge engineers are actively working to bring the Hemi back to the all-new Dodge Charger LB. We will still see the Dodge Charger 6-pack come out first, with a 4-door 6-pack that produces 420 horsepower from the standard output 3-liter Hurricane engine, and that's 50 more horsepower or 13.5% more than the past RT. And there's also the 2-door 6-pack that makes 550 horsepower from the high-output version of the 3-liter, and when compared to the 2023 Charger Scat Pack, that's 65 horsepower or 13.4% more. So this is still the priority for now for Dodge, but it has been confirmed that the V8 power will return in late 2026 to the Charger. Dodge CEO Matt McAleer has talked about how the previous Dodge Charger, Challenger, and Magnum offered so many different motors and powertrains, and recently he did an interview with The Drive in February 2025, where he said, quote, "This is a multi-energy platform that can accommodate all of that." And of course he's talking about the Stella Large platform that the new Dodge Charger rides on. This is just the first year, and you've got 4 powertrains that outperform every one that they're replacing with standard all-wheel drive. We're just getting started. We're going to have a lot of fun. End quote. When he was asked about a V8 return, he said, quote, "We haven't disclosed that. But one of the things that's encouraging is that with the change in leadership, V8s are no longer a bad word around the company." And of course he's talking about Carlos Tavares being gone. "But with anything, we still have to be compliant." End quote. So this confirmation that the V8s are returning to the Charger is simply the perfect mix and addition to the Hurricane inline 6-cylinder lineup. Many Mopar enthusiasts do acknowledge that the Hurricane offers impressive power and fuel efficiency, but so many Dodge loyal fans feel that the Hemi V8 is irreplaceable for a variety of reasons, and with Tavares gone, it seems that Dodge endorses this as well. That's why the confirmation of a future Hemi-powered Charger is such a big deal, and Dodge is continuing to honor their muscle car roots and legacy of the Charger while offering more powertrain options for their customers. Just to add some updates to this that I found while editing, Car and Driver reached out to a Dodge spokesperson who did say that while multi-energy options have always been part of the plan, they have nothing further to share about the next-gen Charger lineup. This is exactly the attitude I would expect Dodge to have at this time in 2025, as of course they want the 6-packs to sell as well as possible. There are still many unknown details about the release of the Hemi with respect to the Charger, like which engines it will be in and which models they will have, and also the fact that releasing the Hemi at the same time could hurt 6-pack sales if people all are holding out for the Hemi and waiting for that. So it doesn't make sense for them to confirm too many details at this time. The other side of this is that the Hemi can't hit the market overnight, as developing a new powertrain or reintroducing this existing one requires extensive engineering, testing, and emissions compliance, as well as the fact that the new Charger body simply wasn't designed for the Hemi, so there's going to be a lot of reworking to fit that in there. McAleer spoke about this as well, and also being careful with timelines and acknowledging that things are always changing in the long run, especially with spending money and government regulations. He did say this soundbite that stood out to me, quote, we're always looking at ways to find best-in-class performance, to build on performance, and to push the boundaries. We don't want to stand still at Dodge, and we don't plan on it. There will be powertrain variations that continue to come. We haven't even launched the SRT yet, so we still have to get into that. And who knows where we go if the business case makes sense for a V8 and there's potential. End quote. The last vehicle to mention is the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Jeep quietly took away the 5.7-liter Hemi option from the Grand Cherokee after the 2023 model year, so there's just a 3.6-liter V6, or there's a hybrid 4xe power plant. While many don't expect the Hemi to return to the Grand Cherokee, I can't imagine why not, as it seems like it would be a great idea and simply offer better power, towing, and capability for a customer that wants a gas-powered Grand Cherokee, rather than the V6, the hybrid, or a possible future 2-liter turbo engine. So that's the end of this update on the Hemi V8 returning. I've tried to use as many sources and be as thorough as possible to bring updates on everything that I possibly could regarding this topic. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and let me know what your opinions and thoughts are down in the comment section below. There are still many unknowns about the Hemi returning, like which models will be offered, will the Hemis be improved and in which way, and more, but so far this is a great sign for Mopar fans who love their V8s. Thanks for watching, make sure to like and subscribe for everything Mopar, and I'll see you soon in the next video.